Good afternoon. This is Charlotte Pierce. I'm the producer of Indie Office Hours, which comes to you live every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time, U.S. Eastern Time. I'm an independent publisher in the Boston area with 3 different imprints. I think I have about 5 books in the pot now, stirring around, and I'm here with Laura, my co-host Laura Williams. She runs a business called The Writing Biz, so that's very closely connected to publishing. And we're hoping that she comes up with a book here one of these days, maybe. And our special guests are Kim McQueen and of the Champlain College Publishing Initiative, and Kim will tell us what her exact title is, and Tim Brooks, who's the director of the Champlain College Publishing Initiative. And today we're talking about whether you can actually learn to be a publisher, whether at certain points in your life it's a good idea to kind of go to an institution of learning and take a graduate program or an undergraduate program if you're a younger person or young at heart. So I'm just going to let Tim and Kim introduce themselves, and Laura as well. Maybe, Laura, why don't you just, if you have a couple words to say, you can start, and then you can hand it off to Tim and Kim.
Okay, sure. Nice to have you both on here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's some things that I'm interested in learning about publishing, and about learning about publishing. And one of the things is that as far as the education goes, so if you're an older person just entering that field, what educational choices do you have? I mean, can you just do you have to get a degree in it, or just can you go take courses in it? Could you explain that to me?
I'm going to take
Go for it.
What we do with people who are new to the publishing process, who come to us as clients, is to do a little bit of a one-on-one education, actually a lot of one-on-one education, as much as the client wants to learn, we can impart about the whole process. Some people come to the table and they don't necessarily want to learn about the publishing process so much as just push their book out, and that's certainly fine too. So we sort of take people on an individual basis and their experience helps to educate our undergraduates. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand now.
So I guess I would add probably 2 or 3 things to that. One is I want to plug a book that's coming out shortly from Champlain Books called First Time Publisher, which is going to hopefully walk people through much of this landscape. Make a note of that, First Time Publisher, Champlain Books. The second thing is that you mentioned undergraduates. So at Champlain College, we actually have a publishing specialization. Students from a variety of disciplines can take courses in their own particular discipline, be it PR or graphic design or broadcast and streaming media, but with an emphasis on learning the particular skills that will lead them to what we call publishing in the 21st century. In other words, small, agile, multi-dimensional publishing. So that's actually
Okay.
Publishing initiative that Kim was talking about is a publishing services operation that offers sort of education, coaching, guidance, consultation for individuals who essentially want to publish their own particular project, be it a book or something else.
Okay, that's very interesting.
So you have, but the undergraduate program is for like young college students, isn't that correct? Or is there?
Well, we've had at least 2 non-traditional or mature students go through that program. So if they're interested in becoming undergraduates again, then it's open to anybody.
Yeah.
I think that's one path. We're working on developing other paths for the sort of mid-career person who would like to find more out about either publishing as a whole or how to publish their own book. And first-time publisher, actually, that Tim just mentioned, is a title that'll be forthcoming this fall from Champlain Books, which is owned by myself and my partner, who you can't see, but Cindy Barnes is right across she's waving, you can't see her. We're a small publishing organization with an educational component that hasn't been rolled out yet because we're super brand new. But look for that on our website this fall.
And would that be something that you could take, like if remotely, or is that?
Absolutely. Online based with some live components as necessary and appropriate.
See, that's very interesting because, I mean, we all know that one of the problems that people have when they step into that self-publishing is either they lack the education needed to do it properly, or they've exposed themselves to bad information or are trying to use that. So it's a great way to have everything kind of presented in a way that can really help them understand that platform and what direction they need to go and how to get all those pieces to fit together.
Exactly.
So
and we wanted to provide it is because it's so sorely needed. I looked around for a master's level program that, or you know, continuing education, something several years ago, and really there was nothing beyond, at that point, there was nothing beyond an MFA that happened to have a publishing component, of which there are a few good programs. But I didn't necessarily want a master's degree in publishing. I wanted to know what I was doing in publishing.
Right.
And so what I did was sort of, I didn't know Tim at the time. I lived in Florida, and just sort of, you know, actually got a subscription to Publishers Weekly. Realized that was not what I was after. That was not going to answer my question. And then went and
way to confuse yourself.
Right, learned a little bit here and there about you know, this book and that book about working with Lightning Source, but then, you know, this educational arm that I was looking for at the time I was looking for it didn't exist, and now I'm in the process with Cindy and Tim of setting up exactly that.
And did you have you checked out any of the IBPA offerings? They seem to be kind of, you know, they've got this open university thing going, and you can...
I'm enrolled in a metadata class right now, and I'm a brand new member, so I've never been to an IBPA meeting, but I'm planning on going to Austin in April for exactly that.
And Austin is their kind of annual thing, conference?
Yeah, that's where Publishing University is.
Yeah, okay. That would be nice. I'd like to go too.
This past year was in San Francisco. That would have been fun too. Anyway,
are you planning on anything like that in Champlain Books? I mean, like that kind of open university type thing? Or?
The plans they have. Yes, the world is going to be revolutionized starting in this very office. Actually, what I'd like to do, speaking back to the original point of discussion you brought up. In other words, is publishing something you can learn, or is sorry, the finger being held up? I'm going to pause.
One thing is that you're cutting out, so there's some sort of differential between the microphone receiving what you're saying and what Kim's saying.
I think it's the internet connection. They're probably on a wireless connection.
Just a second, Laura.
Yeah.
I think it's Kim's coming in fine, so you might be just slightly off center or something. So go ahead.
Cindy thinks it's my accent that's causing the problem.
Can you hear
that accent?
What I wanted to do was to speak to this very question of how do you learn about publishing. Mm-hmm. And the image I want to give you is that during hunting season up in the northeast kingdom of Vermont, an interesting thing happens to the stop signs. which is that everybody uses them for target practice. And so as you drive around, you see a stop sign, and there are like 84 holes in it. So for me, that was what happened to the first book that I self-published, which is called 30% Chance of Enlightenment. And it was a book that I'd already engaged in some really interesting sort of avant-garde publishing practices with. When I came to producing a conventional paper book, pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong, including legal issues, printing issues, financial issues, all that kind of stuff. And I feel very tenderly towards that book. People tell me it's a really, really good book, but I feel tenderly towards it because it's gone out there and been shot at by the things of outrageous fortune and the gunners up in the Northeast Kingdom. What that really did, it's not that I couldn't have learned that stuff theoretically or academically, it's that I wouldn't have felt those wounds on my own body in the same way. And so, for example, I talk to my students about ethical and legal issues in the writing profession and the publishing profession. And they all kind of nod, and some of them take notes, and none of them are on Facebook, and none of them are texting. They know that I'll get mad if I do that. But there's no way they can feel the urgency that I did when I discovered that accidentally and to my horror, I had included a sentence that somebody who had been incredibly helpful and kind to me during the writing of the book had asked to be changed. And I had misunderstood what they meant, and I had not run that changed sentence by them.
And I think I'm going to have a nightmare tonight, Tim.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to have nightmares tonight.
Yes, absolutely. And
hearing that.
That's the point. In a sense, you have to have the nightmares in order to take this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
And that's why, transferring it over to what we're doing at Champlain now, that's why everything we do is project-based. Because nothing that you learn in the classroom as a rule of thumb is going to impinge on your consciousness and unconsciousness as powerfully as something where you have screwed up and 1 or 10,000 people have got angry at you, or you've lost a bunch of money.
Well, I'd like to put in a big plug for your students, because I've had one intern from Champlain this past summer, Kara Joyce, and I just have to say, I really didn't have to do much to guide her. She took the bull by the horns, and she kind of knew. You could tell she knew what she was doing, and she knew what questions to ask me, and she knew when to assert herself.
Yep.
Which I just really appreciated, because she didn't just roll over and say, "Well, this is what Charlotte wants." She said this. She would object and say.
Yeah. We call it the initiative for a reason. I mean, the one quality that our students can't get by without is initiative. And so, because we know that that's what they're going to need. In publishing, you're constantly facing unfamiliar circumstances, if only because the industry and the technologies are changing so rapidly. Okay, so I'm gonna step aside now so that the laptop can return to my managing editor, Kim.
Illustrious. So that is your title for, what is your actual title at Champlain, Kim, besides intern goddess?
Am I an intern goddess? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Managing editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, as a kind of like as a publisher who has many questions about on a daily basis about this industry, it would be like a feature request for your educational program might be for your like mature educational program, just kind of like a drop-in question session, sort of like we have here on Indie Office Hours, but with experts on board or something, because I'm not always able to predict what I know what areas of weakness,
right,
but maybe like a skills survey for independent publishers would be a good thing too, because there's things that I'm not good at that I nevertheless attempt valiantly to try. And
Right, exactly.
so
It's hard to know what you don't know. It's hard to know if you want to pick up a certain skill, whether that's going to take you 2 hours or 200 hours.
Right.
yeah, or to the court, you know, where, like when
Right.
someone sues you.
Right. Right. What we want to provide is an online home and a hub for this type of information where you can ask questions, you can watch videos, you can read the entire text of First Time Publisher. First of all, if you want to have a one-on-one Skype conversation or something in a class format, we are working to offer a really sort of broad range of online community-centered offerings. So I think you might find it a good place to hang out, to everything from, you know, sort of learning a new piece of the industry to answering a specific question.
This sounds perfect for me. What did you have a comment, Laura?
No, I'm just listening. I just think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone to school, I have a degree and everything, but a lot of what I do is self-learning.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have somewhere where you could kind of really go and handle everything in one place. So I mean, like Charlotte knows, I'm a big proponent for self-learning, and I one of the things I enjoy about self-learning is you learn the pieces you need to know.
Right.
You don't have to bother with the pieces that you don't, and if you can't understand something, you know that much faster, I think, and you can turn it over to somebody else who, you know, is an expert in that field.
Exactly right.
But yeah, but I really like that, having everything right there to where you can get a hold of it. I like the fact that you have that online component too.
Yeah. What do you think of, Tim and Kim, of the, and I like the way your names rhyme, so cute.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Both changed our names for that reason.
Yeah. Or you'd be Timothy and Kimothy.
My real name is Eugene.
Well, listen, what was I going to say? You've just blown my concentration. Yeah.
Tim does that.
Yeah, I know he does. Oh, God. I
know. I'm waiting. So seeing if you were going to come up with it.
Pick me up, Laura. Pick me up.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say if you're just if you finish a book, you're considering self-publishing, or you're close to finishing, I should say. Would you suggest? Do you have like a mini program that could kind of get them offer a feel for whether they want to really get into the self-publishing themselves, or, you know, hire somebody like Charlotte to take care of it for them?
So this is a question that we face on pretty much a weekly basis, I would say. So, for example, this Friday, I'm meeting with I believe he's the director of the Fort Ticonderoga Museum. So he has a history of the fort for younger readers that has been written either by him or for him, I'm not sure which. And so he's facing this question, can I find a publisher for this? Can I self-publish it? What are the skills that will be necessary? Would I need to bring in other professionals to work on, for example, illustration? He says they want to do a lot of images using materials from the fort's collection. So he really is in the situation that a lot of people are in, which is, I've heard that self-publishing is now possible, but I really don't know what it involves or what the pitfalls are. The subtitle for first-time publisher is that it's a minefield map. There's a lot of mines out there.
Right.
And so what we offer is an initial consultation. So I'm going to meet with this guy. We meet for an hour, hour and a half, talk about the project in general, map out the kinds of resources he has available, the kinds of resources he might need. And beyond that point, a number of things might happen. One is he might run screaming from the building and throw himself into Lake Champlain. Two, he might decide that he and other, for example, resources, he might have people who are board members or volunteers who have skills that would be useful that could all come together, in which case, you know, we might provide a little kind of remote guidance that they would be able to walk through themselves. Or they might hire the students of the Champlain College Publishing Initiative to provide specific services, design services or copy editing services, website design services, that kind of thing. And to be fair, there are other organizations, other companies that offer similar publishing services. Some of them are really wonderful. Some of them, especially online, need to be watched out for. So I know somebody, a friend of mine, who went to one of these places and wound up publishing a memoir of about 120 pages, where the unit cost, in other words, the cost per book to her, wound up being $18.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, she had bought into the fact that she needed all of these services,
Exactly.
and had no idea that in fact, with a little bit of help, she could have had the same thing for a unit cost of about $2.75. Or, you know,
well, I think you also need an on-staff psychologist, because you have people like me who think they can do everything, but you need to kind of convince them that they they should get help.
I think that to your point of modules, right? So what we have tried to do in setting up an educational program is set up the way, the same way that CCPI works with clients, and that Cindy and I work with Champlain Books with our clients, which is you don't necessarily have to buy the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
You sort of present as needing one piece of information. We break that out, or it already is broken out, into modules, and you can sort of order up whatever it is you need for any project.
See, that's a smart way to handle that. Yeah.
I think that might actually work for me. I'm not sure. We'll have to. Can I be a test case?
Yeah. I'll call you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen. I now have remembered the thing that was in my head. I've got jet lag, serious jet lag from being in the UK. So, these do you know much about the master's programs at Pace, and I think there's one at a summer program at Rice. There's one at Champlain. I have my intern from Elmira College from last year. Is going into the PACE program right out of a 4-year college program in English or something, and I just don't know if you know, like, if she just wants to go into traditional publishing, or what do those programs set you up for?
So traditionally, those programs were graduate programs or summer programs. They were set up in cities which were known as being centers of traditional publishing, such as New York, to a lesser extent Boston. What they offered was the chance to kind of rub shoulders with people in the industry. You get to meet agents, you get to meet publishers, editors, you get to meet marketing people, you know, and the amount of actual education really seems to me a little iffy, and they really suffer, I think, from two things. One is they tended not to be project-based, and so you yourself weren't out there, you know, carrying something through the process. And the second thing is they were very, very much based, or still are very much based, in traditional publishing mode. And so if the thinking was, you know, publishing is a rich and strong field, you want to go and work for Random House, then the best way to do it is to get this degree. So obviously the things that have changed are, one, New York book publishing has become the Detroit of the printed word. And then the second thing is that the things that you will want to know are changing very, very rapidly. And so you're going to want to actually have some web skills. You're going to want to have some e-commerce skills, and you're not going to get those by hanging out with somebody who's a New York book editor.
Yeah.
This is bound to change, but I have to say, and I'm only speaking with indirect knowledge here, but we had 2 people from the Columbia program visiting the Champlain campus about a year ago, and I met the 2 of them, both very bright, very earnest, very, very thoughtful people. And they had been told that while they were on campus, they should probably meet me, and so they sort of fine, and they came to my crowded office. And they started out by sort of saying, well, of course, we're Columbia, we're the #1 kind of thing. And after a while, they said, so what do you do? And so I told them.
You let them hang themselves first.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I told them what we do, and they went rather quiet.
Yeah.
And they started saying, yeah, that's kind of a lot more hands-on than we are, and you're really much more into this technology stuff than we are, and you've really got undergraduates doing that stuff,
I know. I was blown away when I heard about it too. I mean, I went to the Radcliffe Publishing Program in 1985,
Wow.
and it's just exactly as you described. It was a chance to meet David Godine and all the people from the big hot authors and. Bright Lights, Big City. Who is that guy?
Jay McInerney?
Yeah, and, they all gave little spiels, and it did. I mean, I got a job in New York, so. But,
well, let me ask a question, because, I mean, to me, things sometimes are kind of black and white when it comes to the financial side. To me, it would seem, and correct me if I'm wrong, just like I said, this is a guess, that your potential for making a good income would be improved not being with a main publishing house. In other words, doing it on your own, having books yourself that you publish, and learning to do it in the more modern self-publishing way. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to let Kim have a go at answering that as well. So, first of all, there is, in a sense, it isn't a choice, because the vast majority of authors can't get a contract with a major publisher anyway, especially if that industry is shrinking at a rapid rate. So it's not as if people say, should I go with a traditional publisher, or should I go with an indie publisher, or should I self-publish? It's kind of like good luck. Second thing is that becoming a publisher is like starting any small business, and most small businesses fail, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. So you have to know, or to at least to learn what you're doing. And if you learn it and do it well, and if you have a good idea or a good manuscript, all this kind of stuff, then yes, one of the books that I've self-published has made me more money than my most successful book published by a major New York publishing house. So in that sense, it's definitely there. On the other hand, I really threw myself into that, stop sign the Northeast Kingdom firing range in order to learn a whole lot of stuff. And I wouldn't want to oversimplify the task that you're going to want to undertake in publishing even one book for yourself. I'm not turning it over to Kim.
Right. Well, see, my thing is, if you were a 20-year-old kid and you wanted to go into publishing, and the way that I read things and the way I understand things, I think that if you were looking for financial success, that if you're willing to put in the work and get the education, it would be better to go through a program such as yours that speaks more to the self-publishing side of things than go spend 4 years to go to college with the expectation of working for Random House. That's what
Absolutely.
I'm think. There's a lot more, places that you can go with that, and of course you may not even end up in publishing, but you have those things open to you, and you don't have that heavy level of commitment that you have to go do this one thing.
Yeah. Right. I just wanted to say we should probably wrap it up here, but I think we need to talk about this topic again. But PACE apparently has a little publishing program that they,
Right.
or a company that the students can get practical experience in. So I'm hopeful for Caitlin. But so yeah, are there any other besides IBPA's thing? And I mean, I don't want you to undermine your own promo here, but are there any other programs around the country that people, if they're more comfortable going to something locally, that you know of?
I've been looking for the last couple of years, and IBPA is the closest that I have come yet to educational offerings that are right on the level of what I felt I needed at the time. And so that's, and hence I've sort of gone on at length about the direction that my company is going in order to answer this need.
Yeah.
I just want to second everything Tim said about the master's level programs at places like PACE and Columbia. These are both great programs, but are so geared towards traditional publishing and so geared, both of those programs are so geared towards New York that I think we're in sort of taking the baby steps now to provide what self-publishers need locally and regionally.
Well, I'm the co-president of the Independent Publishers of New England also, and I think, it would be fun to talk about how we could collaborate on some things, because I know a lot of our members are in this, very good candidates for learning.
Great. Yep.
in that way. So, anything else anyone wants to add?
Yeah, can I throw in just one last thought? And that is that the word publishing has also changed in meaning dramatically in just the last 5 years. So what we're doing right now on Google Hangouts is a form of publishing. The notion that, this is what you were talking about a minute ago, that you have more choices if you sort of learn in this sort of a multiple dimension, multimedia fashion. The fact is that the two basic media of publishing right now are websites and apps. And so anything that you do where, even if you're publishing a book, you're also learning how to run a website and maybe how to incorporate a little video and all these other various dimensions. All of those things are moving you into a whole range of possibilities in the 21st century in the way that if you're only thinking print, you're not. So if your aim of your first book is to make money and nothing else, you're actually missing out on the other aims, which are to have fun, to learn a whole lot of stuff about what's going on, and to be ready for your next project. We actually have this phrase, think outside the book.
Yeah.
Talk in terms of projects, because the book may be part of what you do, but part of what you do may actually be going down some other cluster of platforms or media which are going to be where things go in the years to come.
And there you are. I tell you, we could just have you guys back for every single session that we have in the indie office hours, and we'd never exhaust the subject, I'm sure. But let's do it again.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
That would be great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast and invite everyone next week when Laura will be back to talk about...
I don't know.
We need to work on that. So, yeah, I'll be on vacation again next week.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay,
well,
that makes sense. I'm like, what the heck's she talking about? That makes sense. I guess
that's okay. We can jam. We can jam.
Sorry, Charlotte.
No problem. So we'll see you again next week at 12 noon on Tuesday. And until then, keep learning about publishing.
All right.